Hello, pilots. Today we're flying the Strike Eagle again, a jet whose supremacy didn't last more than a single update. Right now, it's going up against planes that seem to have anti-gravity engines. But no worries, pilot. You still have the best early game in the entire game, contrary to what many might think. The first piece of advice I have for you is to use drop tanks. They're super important in case you need some extra maneuverability at the start of the match. And then you might ask, but Karma, what do you mean by extra maneuverability at the start of the match? Well, the F-15E plays very differently compared to jets like the Eurofighter, Rafale, or Flanker. Those other planes are way more strategically flexible. And before your nervous fingers start typing, but in real life blah blah blah, I'm talking strictly about the game. Here, the Strike Eagle is a pressure machine on the opponent when the fight is still pretty far off in the early game, meaning when the battle is still happening in the BVR arena and allies are still positioning themselves. But as the furballs start forming, the enemies bunch up in smaller areas, and that's when the mid-game kicks in. The F-15's attack windows start getting worse because the jet has a lot of compression at high speed, and believe me, it needs speed. Slow down and you'll become an easy target. So, it's better to learn how to handle the aircraft's compression. With that in mind, let's see how we can make the most out of what this mighty Eagle has to offer. If you noticed, at the start of the match, I was checking which planes were on my team and where they were heading. I saw there weren't many with me in BVR, which helps me decide whether I'll fly too high or not. Since I'm alone, I'll stick to an altitude where the compression isn't too aggressive. It keeps me from turning into a flying piñata that everyone will target for making contrails, which makes me way more visible and a magnet for engagements. I applied as much pressure as I could at the moment to take away some of the enemy's advantage. Remember, at the start of the match, altitude and speed are huge advantages. If there are 5 targets flying high and you take out 2 or even just make them turn around, even if those targets stay alive, your team gets some breathing room to react to that enemy pressure. I managed to make a good attack, but I barely have time to catch my breath because I'm trying to hold off an entire advance that could eventually hurt most of my team, who were flying much lower than me. Notice that during all this time, I've been defending towards where my team was located, or at least trying to. Once the BVR phase comes to an end, which is about a minute and a half after the match starts, sometimes even less on smaller maps, my role as the jet responsible for BVR is done. I can't keep attacking forever, and now I rely on my team to protect me. They need to take advantage of the conditions I've set up for them. Now, the match is all about the support I can provide, always flying around my allies and positioning myself where I can get help more easily. For the second match, we're on City Map. Even though it's small and makes it super easy to find targets in a good aspect to suddenly fire up to 8 missiles at once, you need to be patient with your shots, especially with the way my opponents are flying, all low and using multipathing. This is a map where most of the time the ground actually protects the aircraft, so I have to pick my targets carefully. As our opponents move toward the center of the map, where we'll have a much better chance of landing our missiles, that's the moment to go all in and attack with confidence. On maps or regions like this, where the terrain is smooth, you need to know how to exploit the irregularities where multipathing doesn't work, giving your missile a much higher chance of hitting the target dead on. This is definitely one of the key skills you need to have with this jet if you want to succeed. Knowing how to time your missile so it reaches those gaps perfectly. After a decently satisfying, fast, and cohesive attack, not just spamming missiles like a maniac, it's time to head back and return to help the Allies as quickly as possible. There are a lot of enemies around the airfield. In moments like this, you gotta really think about whether it's worth taking off or not. Don't waste your time or other players' time for nothing. Time is the most valuable asset in the world. In my case, I think it's worth it, so I take off toward the side of the map where I have more room to defend myself. I'm going to use this map border barrier because it's pretty easy to dodge missiles with it. Just use it wisely, because it can either save you or put you in a dead end. Look at that. The radar shows that 2 of the enemies are leaving, so I plan to focus on the one getting left behind. Now we just gotta go hunt down the others. Remember to keep a good altitude without making contrails. That really helps a lot when chasing and engaging targets more efficiently without a million missiles coming at you. Guys, it's super important that you remember and do this.
The enemy's getting closer to victory.
Well, since the target is at a good aspect and distance, we can start firing the missiles. One thing to note about rear engagements is that multi-targeting doesn't work as well as when the target is approaching you. So, if he keeps flying straight like this, thinking he's going to find a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, he'll be in constant danger. And of course, you're in an F-15E, so even if you fired a missile at a target, you don't have to stay locked on it forever. You need to keep constant pressure, always knowing where all the targets are so that distance never becomes an issue. I launched a missile at this Gripen, but at the same time, I'm already in position to pressure another target if needed. Well, we managed to use our plane to perfection. The F-15E is a strong aircraft because of its ability to be a sniper. With the planes it faces and the ones currently in the game, it's perfect for that role. But what a lot of people don't understand is that it's not a fun gameplay style. Most of the time, it's a plane that shines for 1 or 2 minutes. After that, it turns completely into a support role. Matches like this, where everything falls into place, are exceptions for a player who really has to put in the effort and make every decision correctly. A lot of people say in the comments, "Karma, I can't deal with the Rafale. I can't deal with the Eurofighter, the Flanker, the Gripen." Understand the aircraft. It speaks for itself. Its performance speaks for itself. This plane wasn't made for close combat, and you have every way to avoid close combat at all costs while still getting good results. But you have to master every role and execute them in order of priority, depending on each moment in the match. Now, in the third match, we're on a map that average Strike Eagle users ironically hate when in reality, it's the best map for it. A big map where you have the space and time to climb during the first few minutes, since the first encounters and engagements take a while to happen. So my goal here is to play like a true predator, regardless of whether I have a lot of allies to support me in the BVR arena or not. Since I'm high up, I have a huge advantage for engagements. While a missile from someone at 5 kilometers of altitude has a maximum range of 20 or 25 kilometers, mine has an efficient ballistic trajectory of 30 or 35 kilometers, and if the target is high, even more. I've got registered kills from 63 kilometers like this with the AMRAAM. It's rare, but it happens a lot. So let's choose our targets accordingly to make a good strike. My priority is always to attack the ones higher up first. Even though I have lower chances of a kill, this helps my team more in the long run. Remember, if the enemy up high loses their attack window because they have to turn around, that's already a big help to your team. After that, I go after the ones lower down. But you've got to be careful, especially with Eurofighters that like to rush low. If you push too far or take too long to launch your attack, it'll definitely put your integrity at risk. So when the radar gets inconsistent, just turn around. Don't insist too much. As much as I'd love to enjoy the kill feed here, I've got to run, planning my route to the airfield based on where the enemies were going and where my allies are. I'll rearm and be back. Even though there's no sign of enemies ahead, I like taking off to the right on this map too, because there's always some opponent wandering around this area bombing bases, and I don't want to get caught off guard. Plus, the battlefield is right up ahead, and the last thing you want is to rely on multipathing to defend yourself with this big aircraft. It might still happen, but at least I tried to avoid it. Ping on the rear hemisphere of a JF-17. Yeah, that's one plane I really don't want to fight right now while I'm this heavy and alone. So I fly quickly toward my team to give and receive support.
Attention to the map. Attention to the designated grid zone!
not that he really needed help, I guess, but I ended up fragging that kill. Now I just need to take out the Jeff. On this small map, at least on this side I'm on, we usually start with a huge geographical disadvantage. So, what I need to do is stop my team from getting crushed in the first few minutes of the match. Usually, the guys on the other side like to rush head-on and spam missiles as people come out of these hills up ahead. So, I'm gonna play and cooperate based on that.
Block. 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 Block.
Like small maps have pretty standard dynamics. Not that this is the only way to play here or that everyone plays like this, but if you understand the flow and the routes, it gets way easier to play. Just keep in mind that what I just did doesn't work for every plane or every missile. Here's the reward for you who watched the video all the way to the end. You might be wondering, hey Karma, these strategies you taught me are really cool, but what if the team just doesn't work? What do I do then? Well, that's exactly what we're going to see in this match. Remember what I said about stopping the team from getting crushed right at the start of the match? Well, this time my team played so badly that I didn't even have time to provide support. Smile and wave, boys. Life goes on. I'll have to react accordingly. The kill feed is just not looking good to my eyes. So instinctively, my reaction is to fire as many missiles as possible. Doesn't matter if they hit or not. I don't have time. It's already tough enough to do a 1v1 with the Strike Eagle under the right conditions. Imagine a 1v all. So all I want right now is to be in a safe spot ASAP. All the weight I don't need missiles. Fuel has to go to rush the airfield. If I want any chance of fighting in the future, I need to activate this order, which basically acts like an anti-bind hunt. I don't know where the targets are. The map is way too small for me to move around, so if they show up near the airfield, this is where I'm gonna fight. Because if any of them get too close, I'm dead. So let's see how long I can last. Damn, these clouds are really messing with my situational awareness. It's not like I wasn't already in a tough spot. I wanted to fly higher, but I'll have to lower my flight ceiling to have any chance of defending myself and attacking better. Here's the answer, folks. I played the whole match right. Just one mistake I made, doing the notch the wrong way for a millisecond, ruined the whole chance of winning that I built. Without a team, unfortunately, the F-15E doesn't work. There are things you can do to make this plane more fun, like playing with your friends in a squadron. And please, bring planes from the same bracket. Don't troll the matches or anything like that. Well, gentlemen, that's it for today. Do you agree or disagree with anything I said? Is there something that works better for you? Let me know. Leave a comment down below. Until next time, Karma out.